Hi guys and welcome to this Q&A post the 2018 Italian Grand Prix. How are we all doing? Hopefully we're doing well after what was a very good Italian Grand Prix yesterday. There has been some pieces of news since I was last talking to you guys on a live stream yesterday. There's been two pieces of news which we will go through on this live stream. But guys, how are we all doing? How are we all doing? By the way, I think who was it? Ben McCarthy, to do with the Italian Grand Prix being so good, said that the Italian Grand Prix, in his opinion, is the best Italian Grand Prix since the new hybrid era. And I'd have to agree, and I think you guys will probably agree on that as well. By the way, if you have not checked out my race review, I uploaded it around about an hour ago. Go and check that out. It's down in the description down below. There's a link there. You can go and watch it right now. But hopefully, yeah, everyone in the chat is doing well. By the way, if my voice doesn't sound great in the race review or today, right now, it's because I do have a bit of a sore throat after the weekend. I was commentating a lot. I think, if I remember correctly, I did about, how long was it? At least 6 hours of commentary at the weekend. That's a lot of commentary to do. So, again, sorry if my throat is sore, but yeah, it's, I do it all, you know, for you guys. So, no pain, no gain. But I guess now we'll go into the Q&A. But actually, before we go into the Q&A, let's go through, guys, the news that has happened since the race reaction yesterday. First, Romain Grosjean was disqualified from the race results from the Italian Grand Prix. I talked about that in my race review. Again, go check that out. And from looking at why he was disqualified, basically, it seems to me that I think it was the floor is not the correct dimension or something like that. Again, I'm not very smart on the technical side of F1. I don't take massive interest in it. But from what I saw, that is the interpretation I can really see of why they've been disqualified. And Renault, I think they brought it up at the end of July at the Hungarian Grand Prix, and the FIA warned Haas, but Haas said that you have to give us until Singapore because it's down to basically the people or the company that make the floors for Haas. But they've disqualified them from the race results in Italy. Of course, you know, it's so disappointing from a Haas point of view because they were so good in the race. Grosjean, I thought, was one of the best drivers of the weekend. Very quick, very consistent. Qualifying, he was very good, and in the race as well, holding off the two Force Indies at the end. And then he gets 8 valuable points took away from him. Such a shame. But even though they've had those points took away and Renault have now stretched their gap in the Constructors in 4th place, it's only 10 points. So any Haas fans, I know a certain person named Tommy, I know he'll be disappointed, but don't be disappointed for long because there is still 7 races left and I think Haas can still beat Renault despite this disqualification. I don't think Renault will be able to hold on. I still don't think they will be able to. Let me just see what some of you guys think. Apparently, there is only one team who has a legal flaw. That's from Simon Cragland. I haven't researched about any of that, but you know, the teams always are going to push the boundaries with the regulations. They're going to push as hard as possible and sometimes maybe break the rules to try and gain that extra, you know, 2 or 3 tenths of a second. Every team tries to do it, and some teams push it too far. Why Grosjean and why FIA? That's from Stella. Apart from Singapore, they should Haas should be faster than Renault at every track. Yeah, I think they should be. They should be. In Singapore, Renault should have the quote-unquote best of the rest car. But we said that in Hungary, and it was, what, Toro Rosso and Haas who were, you know, very good in that race. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Renault haven't been that consistent in the last few races. Tamzid, do you agree with Lando Norris replacing Stoffel Van Dorn? I'll get onto that in a moment once I have basically just gone through this news about Romain Grosjean. But yet, to the people watching or people in the chat right now, what do you think about the news of Romain Grosjean being disqualified? Do you agree with it if you're into the technical side of F1, or do you think it's absolute BS? Let me just look through the chat to see what you guys think. JB Grosjean was in my fantasy team. Yeah, that's very, very bad. Right, I'll move on then to the other news that Lando Norris has now replaced Stoffel Van Dorn at McLaren for 2019. So at McLaren, it's going to be Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris. Now, it's a good driver lineup. I'm not sure how it's going to work. I'm not sure how those personalities are going to fare with each other. I'm not quite sure. It's kind of similar to Alonso and Hamilton. I saw that comparison on Twitter earlier. It is kind of similar to that. Because Sainz, you know, massive Alonso fan. And he is a bit like Alonso. And Norris, of course, you know, the comparisons are there because he's British and has done so well in junior formula like Lewis Hamilton did. And also because I think the last time they promoted a British driver from a younger formula, it was Lewis Hamilton. So, you know, the comparisons are there. That, of course, didn't work out well. But, you know, guys in the chat, what do you think is going to happen with Norris and Sainz? I think it's going to work out fine. Does Norris deserve to be in that seat ahead of Ocon and Perez? It's difficult to say. It's really difficult to say. There are so many drivers out there that deserve to be in F1 and deserve to have a seat. Tamzid asks people what happened to Grosjean and why. Basically, Grosjean was disqualified from 6th place because of an illegal flaw that Renault launched a protest on, and the FIA agreed and disqualified them from the race, but Haas have launched an appeal. Hallam899 says this is a B-Tech version of Lewis and Fernando. Yeah, I'd agree with that. That's a very fair assessment. JB Norris is a good choice. I think Van Dorn will partner Hartley at Toro Rosso and Ocon will swap with Stroll. There has been some rumours that, hello to Beakin F1 who's just joined. There has been some rumours that Ocon and Stroll are going to be at Force India and that Sergio Perez is going to retire from F1. That's a very interesting rumour that I've seen on Twitter. Of course, he did do that. Was it Instagram? I think it was Instagram. He did an Instagram post in the summer break where it just said on the screen 2011 to 2018. Now, the only constant in that time is his F1 career. So maybe he is going to retire. It would be a massive shock because I think, is Perez still in his 20s? I think, is he what, 28, 29, something like that? So it would be a big shock if that actually was to happen, but we'll have to see. I will say one more thing about Norris is when it comes to, you know, driving for McLaren, of course he's dreamed of this for years, but in the grand scheme of things, in the long term, I'm not sure this is going to work out because if McLaren don't improve and the same structure of management is still there in 5 years' time or 3 years' time, then I think Norris's career is going to be destroyed early on, just like it was for a brief time with Kevin Magnussen and Sergio Perez, and right now with Stoffel Van Dorn. Those three drivers, their careers were mutilated by McLaren, and thankfully Magnussen and Perez, you know, they picked their career up and actually got better at the teams they went to. For example, Perez, when he went to Force India, I think 3 races into his Force India career, he was on a podium and everyone forgot about his McLaren career. It took Kevin Magnussen until this season to finally show how good of a driver he is and why McLaren actually picked him to partner Jenson Button in 2014. So it's a difficult thing for Norris, because he has to pray that the McLaren car really does improve for the next 2 or 3 years, because if it doesn't and McLaren do what they normally do to young drivers, then I think Norris's career, his early career, is going to be ruined, just like Magnussen, just like Perez and Van Dorn. When it comes to Stoffel Van Dorn, it's difficult to say if he'll be in F1. It's very difficult to say. I think the only team he will be at is Toro Rosso. That's the only team I see him going to. I don't think he's going to Sauber. I don't see that at all. I think it'll be Toro Rosso. That's the only F1 seat. But if it's not Toro Rosso, I think he's out of F1. But if he does go to Toro Rosso, I wouldn't be surprised if he picks his career up and actually shows why he was picked by McLaren in the first place to replace Jenson Button. I would not be massively surprised by that, because again, Magnussen and Perez, they showed how good they were once they got away from McLaren. Just looking at the chat now for some more stuff about Norris and Van Dorn. Simon Cragland, Toro Rosso should take him. Ben McCarthy, Toro Rosso are in trouble though, losing James Key. With that, I'm not sure if they are going to get James Key. They should do, because the way McLaren have been talking is like they've already signed him. But according to Red Bull, I think, they still have not signed him. So I don't know what's going on there. I really do not know what's going on there. Just looking at Bless Tube. I think it'll work out, but the main issue has not been solved, and that's the car. So if that is not addressed, it will make Carlos Sainz a joke and kill Norris's career like Van Dorn's. I said this a couple of weeks ago, is if you have to do a swap deal Norris for James Key, then do it, because yes, getting good drivers in is great, but if the car is not good, those drivers are not going to do anything with it. Get the car right first, then get the drivers in. If you get the car right, the drivers will follow. And if they had the opportunity to swap those two and they didn't, they're mugs. They're absolute mugs. No disrespect to Lando Norris, but the car, getting that right now is more important than putting him in the car, or Carlos Sainz, or Esteban Ocon, or trying to keep Alonso. It's more important in getting the car right. The drivers are less important right now to McLaren, and they should be, but they're not. From what I've seen, it seems like they're having more trust in the drivers than actually, trying to fix the car. The car is so poor. I just don't get it with McLaren. I do not get it. They're not going to win any races in 2019. They're not going to win probably until, 2024? 2023? Something like that. Are McLaren playing the long game for 2021? That's from Halam899. This is the thing, 2021 and that whole regulation change might not even happen now. They're talking about a new one for 2023 instead of 2021, meaning that the 2021 rules won't change. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see on that. I'm still scratching my head over Ricciardo's from Tonka Toy Truck. The last DNF really must have stung to know that you're going to Renault. I don't think though it was a Renault issue, that retirement. From what I've heard, I haven't, confirmed this. From what I've heard, it was a clutch problem. So I don't think it's an engine problem. I think that's an issue on the Red Bull side, I think. But again, I don't know if that is for sure why he retired from the race. Tamzid 2021 is confusing me, to be honest. Can someone explain or something? Basically, they are attempting to change the regulations in terms of the power units, the engines, to try and make it better for the fans in terms of simplicity, and try and bring in a new manufacturer like a Porsche or an Audi or BMW, Toyota, whoever. That, I think, was the main aims of these new regulations. But it seems to me, and I don't think 2021 should happen. And also, yeah, making it cost less, which is not going to happen anyway, because these new power units, if they do go ahead with it, they're not going to cost that much less anyway. They'll probably cost more. Ethan, do you think McLaren would have been better staying with Honda? The team improved a lot this year. Or they have improved a lot this year. Yeah, they would have, but they decided to give Fernando Alonso the keys to the kingdom in terms of making the decision as to whether to keep Honda or go to Renault, because McLaren were just petrified of losing Alonso. Because I think in that case, McLaren were just... I think they were thinking of their like brand deals and stuff like that when it came to Alonso. I don't think they were massively petrified about losing him driving-wise. I think they were thinking more, if we lose Fernando, we're definitely not going to get enough sponsors for the team or a title sponsor. I think that's what they may have been thinking in terms of allowing Fernando to basically make the decision. And Fernando is the person who made that decision. That's why. If Fernando Alonso was not there and it was Van Dorn and Norris or Van Dorn and Magnussen at McLaren, I think McLaren may have stayed with Honda. I think they may have. So, yeah, more poor decisions there from McLaren. But, yeah, we'll just properly get into the Q&A now, guys. I'll probably be on for another 20 minutes or 15 minutes. So let's now properly get into this Q&A and I'll answer as many questions as I can. They did a cost cap in 2003 and 2004. Well, less said the better. Exactly. I think Jordan and Minardi actually came out worse because of that in that time period. Legendary Snipers, sadly 2014 was bad in aerodynamics. If the V8 was still in F1 2014, the cars wouldn't be as slow as they were. The cars in the rain was just as bad and had less grip for lap times. Yep. They were. Simon Cragland, I don't think Honda and McLaren could ever cooperate. I think you're trying to say that in a good way. So I think it was a good decision for McLaren to get a Renault engine. This is the thing with McLaren and Honda, is basically it was a communication breakdown between the two. They're both responsible for that communication breakdown. And so yeah, you could say that it had to come to an end. But if McLaren actually said to Honda, you know what, you give us what you want us to do with the packaging around the power unit, and we'll do that to get the best out of the engine. Because they didn't do that at McLaren. It was the other way around. It was McLaren telling Honda, right, you put that engine in the car we want, end of story, when it shouldn't have been that at all. Stella, if Norris does well in his first season, would he maybe be snapped up by a top team? No, I don't think he will. I think if McLaren don't get any better or don't get podiums or race wins, the best chance for Norris, or if McLaren don't get any, podiums or race wins in the next 3 or 4 years, the best chance for Norris to get up to, race winning level is to move to another team, even if that's Toro Rosso, and then put yourself in the system of Red Bull to try and get up to the Red Bull team. That's the best thing he could do if McLaren doesn't work out, but we'll have to see on that. Halam899, do you think McLaren will go with someone else in 2021 if it happens, for example, Porsche or Ford or someone else? We'll have to see. I don't think anyone new is going to come into the sport in 2021. I think when you look at who's supplying who, I think it'll be exactly the same by 2021. I think McLaren will still have Renault power units. I think Red Bull will still be with Honda, even if it's not working, because if Red Bull and Honda don't work, Red Bull have no one to go with. And all the other teams, yeah, I don't see them changing suppliers. Norris hasn't impressed me in F2 as much as Russell. That's from Simon Cragland. I think Russell has been better. I think Russell has been better. I hope Russell gets into F1. It would be such a crying shame if he did not get into Formula One. I still think he'll be in the Williams alongside Sorokin. I have seen rumours about Artem Markelov, who, you know, is a great driver and he was very good in the Monza feature race. By the way, if you did not see that, you really should have. What an overtake he performed on Russell at the start of that race. But Russell is such a quick driver in qualifying. He's very similar, I think, to Vettel when he's out in front, in terms of he's very focused at, you know, getting the gap between, you know, between him and the car behind. And he's also very good at wheel-to-wheel racing, as we saw at the in the feature race for Monza as well, getting back past Norris after Norris passed him. Very, very good racing. Tamzid, Chazza, do you think DRS is effective enough? Sorry that you've asked 4 times. I've just, you know, been going off on other points. I think DRS, I think we should get rid of DRS, to be honest. If the regulations next year work in terms of clearing up the dirty air, then I think there should be no more DRS. Because what's the point in having it anymore? And with the Ericsson accident at Monza in practice, which was caused by the DRS not closing, there is good reason for there to be no DRS anymore in F1. Just looking at more questions. It's sad that there are more manufacturers wanting to go to Formula E than to F1. It's because Formula E, with the whole electric, you know, series and electric cars and all that that's becoming more popular, it's more enticing, I think, to the Audis and the Porsches and the Toyotas of the world. I think I really want the new F1 game. I have it. It's a good game offline. I'll say that. It's a good game offline, but online it's unplayable. It is unplayable. They've made online actually worse than it was in F1 2017 or F1 2016. It's so bad. It's so bad. Codemasters, again, all they do is focus on career mode. They don't actually focus on online racing, which should be the priority now that you've got into esports. Oh my god, doesn't make any sense. Will there be anyone else in the podcasts? For the time being, nope. It's just going to be Nib. But I am planning to try and get another YouTuber on sometime in October, between Suzuka and the US Grand Prix, so the middle of October. I'm planning to get someone on then, someone different and a YouTuber to get on and have a good discussion. Sorry, have a good discussion, have a good podcast, hopefully. I've asked 6 times, what do you think of the pecking order will be in Singapore? You put in the questions for the podcast yesterday, so we'll answer that in the podcast. Which I'm going to be recording, by the way, tonight. So if you do have any questions that you want us to answer in the podcast, then go and put it in there, and then we will answer that tonight, and it'll be released during the week. Sam, Max Verstappen's penalty. I still disagree with it. I don't think it was a penalty. Verstappen did move across, and maybe you could argue that him moving across was unnecessary, but Bottas had the accident into Verstappen, not Verstappen hitting Bottas. Verstappen did come across, but then Verstappen kind of slightly went back to the middle, and then Bottas hit Verstappen and went straight on down the escape road. I don't think it's a penalty. The penalty was for, I think, causing a collision. If anything, Bottas caused the collision because he hit Verstappen. Verstappen did not hit him. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Shelley from the F1 world. I would want to listen to that. I don't know who that is unless you're mistaking that for someone else who I think I might know. Chazza, do you like the Halo? That's from Tamzid. I don't like the halo in terms of looks and it being on the cars, but it doesn't matter if I like it or not. It has to be on the cars. It is fully 100% necessary, whether you like it or not. Simon Cragland, imagine if Hamilton drove for Ferrari and Vettel for Mercedes, and Vettel kept making these kind of mistakes, then Hamilton would lead by a mile. Hamilton would probably have almost won the title by now if he was in a Ferrari. And that's no disrespect to Vettel, but Vettel has made too many mistakes. So, yeah, it's just made way too many mistakes. Why can't your fans be on podcasts? That's on Beacon F1. Niblo is a fan of the channel as well. So that's not right. I definitely have fans on the podcast. I've got one on right now. JB, which driver do you dislike the most as a person? I don't really dislike any of them as a person. And if I did, then I would basically be coming out and saying that I hate one of the drivers, which I don't. So, yeah, I don't really dislike any of them. I think they're all right, really. Simon Cragland, do you think Kimi is driving his last season in F1? If you listen to the reports about Elkan, the new Ferrari boss, then yes, it probably is. But I still think Kimi's going to stay. I still think Kimi's going to stay because of his performance at Monza, and for most of 2018, he's been very, very good. Tonka Toy Truck, Ferrari. Ferrari's strength seems to be battery related. Their dominance seems restricted to qualifying and the start of the race. When it comes to the ERS battery, that is the main points that, it's used at. So, yeah, I'd say that. Tamsin, apparently the F1 logo may have a copyright lawsuit. What do you think? I did hear about that a couple months ago. I haven't read up on it, but I'm not sure what the exact issue is about that. Maybe it looks too similar to another one. I'm not quite sure. But I did see that headline a couple months ago, so I'll try and keep a lookout for any more news on that. 3 worst world champions, that's from Ben McCarthy. Rosberg, Villeneuve, Jacques Villeneuve, in case you didn't know that Gilles Villeneuve never won a title, sadly. And Phil Hill in 1961. I know that's random, but that's the only one I can think of. In your opinion, who has been the best driver of this season? That's from Ben McCarthy. I would say that's difficult to say who the best has been. I think Ricciardo's in there. Hulkenberg. It's probably between Hamilton, Vettel, and it's difficult to say. There's so many. I'd say the top 5 best have been Hamilton, Vettel, Ricciardo, Hulkenberg, and Raikkonen. Maybe it's very difficult to say. This, got Bottas and Verstappen's been very good since the Canadian Grand Prix. I can't really say. It's so difficult to say. I don't think anyone has been outstanding. I think last year it was clearly Lewis Hamilton because he was so quick and he didn't make, I think, one mistake in that season. This season he's not been as good, and there has been races where he has gone missing in terms of pace. So I don't think he has been clearly the best. So I'd have to think about that. I'd have to think about it. I'll answer more questions, guys, for another 5 minutes, then I'll come off. Do you think Ricciardo could be having second thoughts about going to Renault with his engine issues lately? That's from Warwick Bull. I'm not sure his issue yesterday was an engine issue. I think it might have been a clutch problem. I don't think he's having second thoughts. I think if he does start to have second thoughts, it will be maybe in pre-season testing at the start of next season. Because he can't have second thoughts now because you don't know. Renault Renault might be clearly fourth or maybe up there with Red Bull next year. You don't know. He could be. Or, sorry, they could be, not he could be. In your opinion, who is the best one-time world champion? That's from Halam899. That's quite a difficult question. There's a lot of one-time champions. You have Rosberg, Jenson Button, Jacques Villeneuve, Kimi Raikkonen. Who else have we got? Damon Hill, Mansell. Oh, that's very hard. I'll go Nigel Mansell. I think Mansell deserved at least, probably, yeah, I'd say at least 3 world titles in his career. Such a quick driver. One of the best of his generation. Yeah, I'll go Nigel Mansell. What a driver he was. And if he had not had such bad luck, wow, he could have been a 3, maybe even a 4-time champion. Who knows? Kimi, that's from Gina. Yeah, he'd probably be 2nd or 3rd. I think after Mansell, you'd probably go Kimi and then Jenson. I think Kimi Raikkonen definitely is better than Jenson Button in terms of their careers. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Simon Cragland, Jenson Button versus Nico Rosberg. I would go with Button. I think Button was a better driver than Rosberg. Rosberg was good, but I think Button was better. Beacon F1, Hamilton better than Vettel? Yeah, I'd say he is. Do you think Sorokin has had a good season in terms of his driving? Yeah, I would. He's beat his teammate in qualifying, or he is currently beating his teammate so far in qualifying. So he's doing the best he can. Maybe he could have beat Stroll at Monza, but Stroll was good. There's nothing you can do about it. Ben McCarthy, Villeneuve or Moss? Which Villeneuve are you going with? Is it Gilles or Jacques? What was your favourite V6 Mercedes 2014 to 2018? Legendary Snipers. Well, from 2014 to 2015 and 2016, none of them were really my favourite because I wished that Mercedes were not so dominant. I think last year's Mercedes was a very good car. Very good car. I think I liked that one the most, and it also looked very good as well. Simon Cragland, which race do you think has been the most entertaining this year? For me, Silverstone. I absolutely 1,000,000% agree. Zane, Rosberg is clearly better than Jenson. Sorry, I'm British, but I have to tell the truth. That's your opinion. I wouldn't say that's a universal truth. I think there's plenty of people that will say Jenson was better. I disagree. I think Button was better. You got to remember, Rosberg, the season that Rosberg beat Hamilton, did he beat him in 2013? No, he didn't. Hamilton beat him in 2013. The only season that Rosberg beat Hamilton in 2016, let's be honest, it was because the main reason was reliability issues. Rosberg did drive very well. That was his best season of his career. But it was mainly the first main reason was reliability issues. Jenson Button beat Hamilton in 2011 by quite a lot by simply outdriving him. He outdrove him in 2011. Just look at his race in Canada 2011 that year. Even though Jenson, of course, took Hamilton out of the race, he was very good in that race. He had a great race at Suzuka, I think, that year as well. I think Jenson was better than Rosberg, and I think the way Button won the title as well, his only title in 2009, just the way he won it was so good. One of the best, I think, the best managed years in terms of a person, going on to win the championship. Right, I'll answer one more question from the chat. So put in your final question, and then I will answer it and then come off. There's some good ones coming in now, so keep putting those questions in, and I will pick the best one, I think. Just looking, there's plenty of coming in right now. Just looking, there's about 10 that's just come in. Right, hold on. Top 6 best drivers on the grid. I'll go with that one from Simon Cragland. He goes for Hamilton, Alonso, Verstappen, Ricciardo, Vettel and Bottas. If that's your order, then okay. It's an interesting order. I'll do mine in order for the top 6. I think it's between Hamilton and Alonso for the best. Oh, that's so difficult. So difficult. Yep, that's your order, okay. That's from Simon Cragland again. I would go Hamilton because Hamilton's qualifying speed, I think, makes him just about better than Fernando. Fernando is better in the racing, but there's no question that Hamilton is the best qualifying driver. Alonso second. Third. Oh, that's difficult. For third, it's between Vettel and Verstappen for third. I'm going to go Vettel for now because I want to see what Verstappen is like once he gets into a proper title battle, because we don't know, he might not thrive in that environment. So I'm going to put Verstappen fourth, go Vettel third. And then fifth, I'll go Daniel Ricciardo. And then sixth, I will go Kimi Raikkonen. So that's my top 6. Hamilton, Alonso, Vettel, Verstappen, Ricciardo, Raikkonen. Then after that, I'll probably go Bottas. And then, I don't know, Hülkenberg or Ocon, someone like that. Very, very interesting question. That's very hard to decide, my top 6. Just looking, JB goes Hamilton, Vettel, Alonso, Verstappen, Ricciardo and Ocon. Ocon better than Bottas and Raikkonen. That's interesting. A Tonka Toy Truck, Hamilton, Alonso, Vettel, Max, Ricciardo, Kimi. That's exactly the one I have gone for. But thank you guys for coming along for this Q&A. It has been great as always. Hopefully I will catch you all tomorrow when the podcast, where me and Nib will record it tonight, will upload. I think it's going to have to be split into 2 parts again, sadly. So, yep, it'll be split into 2 parts. So the first part will be out tomorrow and then the second part on Wednesday. Again, thank you guys for coming along. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel either on the bottom right of the screen. Click on my channel name or click in the link in the description that goes to my channel page. Don't forget to watch the Italian Grand Prix race review I did about an hour and a half ago. It was uploaded about an hour and a half ago. Go check that out. It's in the description down below. Please go and watch it. As well, like this video. Comment down below what you thought of this video, and comment down below if you have any questions that you'd like to ask. And what do you think about the Grosjean disqualification and Norris replacing Van Dorn at McLaren for 2019 alongside Carlos Sainz as well? Don't forget to join our Discord server. You can do that by clicking in the link right down below, the last link in the description. We have over 60 people now, I think, in the server, and it's growing all the time. Such great community over there. A lot of the people in the chat tonight are in that community, so if you want to join, go and do so. Also follow me on Twitter at Chaz6110. If you want to keep up to date with when I'm uploading and if there are any issues as to when I'm not going to be uploading. For example, I was supposed to upload my race review at 4 PM today instead of, it was 5:15 UK time. If you were following me on Twitter, you would have known that. But if you're not, then sadly you're not going to know that. So follow me on Twitter so you can keep up to date that way with when I will or will not be uploading a video. And don't forget as well to check out chazerhd.com, link below in the description if you want to check that out and keep up to date with the content on this channel. But until tomorrow, guys, with part 1 of the podcast reviewing the Italian Grand Prix with Niblo, I will see all of you For next time live, it will be Friday practice Singapore. That's the next time we'll be going live on the channel. So I'll see you all then. Hopefully you'll all have a good week. And massive thank you for the weekend as well. I'm on 824 subs or 23. Very, very good weekend. Thank you guys so much, and as well for the viewership. And again, I will see all of you next time live for the Singapore Grand Prix weekend.